Hello and welcome to the Sons of Mandalore's first delve into the world of YouTube. In today's episode, Justin, Nate, and myself are going to be talking a little bit about our first unlimited store showdown, some spoilers from the upcoming set Shadows of the Galaxy, and a little teaser into our plans for our first foray into the world of the Twin Sons format. My name is Cruisin, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sons of Mandalore. It's been a couple weeks, but we're excited to be back. And special welcome to those of you who may be joining us on our brand new YouTube content. We're trying to dip our toes into the realm of YouTube. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, join our Discord too. We're talking about a lot of the content and stuff there, and check out our YouTube channel. I'll post a link in the show notes. It's the channel's called the Gamers Guild, and we kind of have an already established channel that has a bunch of different gaming related content on it, and we've been branching out into Star Wars Unlimited. So we're kind of joining forces with Nate and his stuff over there. So check us out. We'll be doing a lot more content over there. We'll talk about that more later, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start the show off by introducing everybody. Welcome back to the show. Let's start with you, Nate. How you doing today? And I guess give us a little brief about Gamers Guild.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gamers Guild is a channel I started a few years ago and has primarily been focused on a miniatures game called Marvel Crisis Protocol. I've dipped outside of that occasionally with things like Star Wars Shatterpoint and stuff like that, but ultimately just didn't have time to try to cover two miniatures games. It's just a lot more time intensive. And so has primarily been just the MCP stuff, but now moving into to Unlimited, where there's not quite as much time commitment to like the painting of the models and building of models and stuff.
Sure.
So excited to get to unlimited content over there. I've got a setup for us to get some gameplay going and all sorts of fun things.
Yeah. We have some cool ideas. Which, on that note, if you have ideas you'd like to see for video content, definitely reach out to us. Something specific you want to see. We're gonna do some deck tech stuff and some gameplays and all that kind of stuff. But we're always open to ideas. So let us know what you want to see. But yeah, I'm excited to throw in with the Gamers Guild. There's some fun stuff over there, and I'm glad you finally came around to the way of the card game. Is moving on from the minis. I'm just kidding. But and then Justin, how you doing today? Well,
doing good. I love the picture you chose for me while I get my webcam setup going.
I was gonna
really
let that go
captures-
for a little bit, see if if anybody noticed, but it's pretty hard to miss. So
if anybody noticed.
what if that's actually what you look like? For those of you listening on the podcast, Justin doesn't have a webcam set up yet, so I took a picture of he uses it as his Discord avatar, but it's Lumpy from the Star Wars special, and I made that his avatar for today.
I mean, I feel like it captures my energy pretty accurately. So.
Yeah, that's every Monday. Exactly what it feels like. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's dive in here. We got a bunch of stuff we want to cover, and not a ton of time to cover it. So I think we'll kick it off at least by, just because it's top of mind, doing a quick little recap about our experience that Justin and I went to our first Star Wars Unlimited Showdown over this past weekend. A crew of us drove down to Birmingham, Alabama. Unfortunately, Nate wasn't able to join us, but we got a group of 4 down there, and it was a really good time. Got to meet some cool people, and it was the first time I've gone to a CCG tournament, or really a tournament of any kind, since Destiny. So was that 4 or 5 years ago at this point? I didn't realize how much I missed it until I was there and doing it. But it was a really good time, and Justin and I both brought similar decks. In fact, Justin, you were the one who kind of inspired me to bring. We ended up bringing Han Green. We had some differentiation in our lists, but what'd you think? How'd you think the event went overall?
I thought it was great. The shop. I mean, I have been to competitive events before because, like Nate, I play a lot of Crisis Protocol, and Gear Gaming. They were the host of the event. they ran an MCP tournament literally a couple weeks prior to this. So
Oh,
I,
nice,
I had
nice.
just been down in Birmingham
Yeah,
before at the same shop, but yeah, it was cool. People are still sort of getting their footing with the rules of the game and how they organize tournaments. There's some holdovers from Magic that sort of like this is how we do it in Magic, so
right.
this is how we should do it with this. I don't know if it necessarily applies to a game that has like turn-based interaction. It's not like I do all my stuff and you do all your stuff, and there's
Yeah,
interrupts and like that's a whole different thing to get into. But
Hmm.
I feel like it was well run. Everyone there was great. I had a lot of fun with the meta. It
yeah,
wasn't a whole lot of spice. I'll say that it
yeah.
was very. It was a lot of bobas, a lot of Sabines. There
Hmm.
was, I mean, even Han. Like we were one of
Yeah.
like
I
one of
went
like
into this
4 or
event
5.
thinking,
Yeah,
yeah, I went into this event thinking like, oh, no one's playing or talking about Han. Well, it'll just be you and I. I think there were 5 of the 27 players there, or something like that, were on Han, and 2 of us made the top cut. So it was a much more popular deck than I thought. That said, there weren't any like crazy decks, but I did see one Cassian. My first round opponent was against Thrawn, and I played against a different deck every round. So, I mean, that's part of that is me getting lucky with pairings, I suppose. But there was at least varied. Like there was a lot of variation between things. I think it's a pretty healthy meta overall right now in terms of just the variety of decks you see out there, which is really nice to see.
yeah, and
Um,
there's definitely like a strong like rock paper scissors element of like
yeah,
control into aggro into mid range, and that's a fun, healthy meta. I
yeah,
like seeing that. It feels like any deck that gets a good draw and has tools built in to help with certain matchups can take an event.
yep,
Now, obviously, you're going to have a little harder time if you're building like some kind of out there IG88 deck or Cassian deck, but
sure,
there each deck feels like there's a chance that it can take down something if
yeah.
you play it well and build it right.
Yeah, it's kind of why I went with Han. Well, other than the fact that if you haven't tried Han yet, I severely underestimated how fun he is. He's like, especially in green, because you can ramp easily,
Hmm.
and like getting out of U wing on turn 3 is just gross, and it's so much fun. But the reason I chose it is like, so Han does well in my experience into Sabine, so that's part of that rock paper scissors you were talking about. Its weakest matchup, unfortunately, is Boba, which is a very popular deck. But the thing is, Han is a type of deck that can win any matchup if you get your draw right. Like I actually faced Han. I'm sorry, I faced Boba in the top 8, and I drew very well. I won 2-0 because game 1 I got a turn 3 U wing out, and game 2 I drew 2 U wing reinforcements. I didn't get them out as early because I didn't get my ramp. But still, it's hard to come back from 2 U wings, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it's the ultimate high roller deck, so it can be consistent, but it also can spike really hard. If you were going to one right now, what would you be bringing, Nate?
I'd be rocking the Boba Green. It's what I've got the most experience with, at least for a deck that will have some competitiveness to
Yeah,
it. Because like right now, really enjoying the double green Hera, but bringing that to an event is also just not the smartest move at this point, I believe.
yeah. Hey, no one will see it coming. You don't know.
Hey, I'm gonna
There,
I'm
there
gonna
is
bring
that.
up I'm gonna bring up Hera in our spoiler section here a little later.
Okay, all right,
All right.
sweet. It's a really good deck. It's hard to fall. I mean, so our top 8 at this event was 2 Han greens, 2 Boba greens, 2 Sabine yellow, 1 Sabine green, and then a Vader blue. Uh, and then the top 4 was 2 Han greens, Sabine yellow, Sabine green. Unfortunately, unfortunately for me, the pairings in top 4 were Han green versus Han green and Sabine yellow versus Sabine green. So like, uh, it was a bit of a weird setup that way. But Han Green took the whole thing down. Shout out to Thomas, aka Corn Dog Steve, which is one of the better usernames I've seen out there. I feel like that deserves its own separate shout out. He ended up taking down the whole thing, and I lost to him in the top 4. Really, really, really good player, and just a cool guy. I've been chatting with him the last couple of days too. Um, And so spread out number of decks, but a lot of consistency in the top 8. Uh, I just want to make one more point while we're on the topic of showdowns that you were talking about how a lot of the Magic holdovers and such. I would say if you've never been to if you've never been to a tournament before, or if you've never been to a showdown, maybe you played like us who were into Destiny and you're going to your first showdown in Unlimited. Uh, just I would say go in with an open mind, be prepared to have fun. Because right now, I know FFG has mentioned that a lot of their like competitive formatting and just the kind of like taking it more seriously is not going to happen until about set 4 when they have an established
Hmm.
card base. And because right now a lot of stores aren't familiar with FFG's rule set, they're not familiar with how FFG runs tournaments, and frankly, the FFG tournament software isn't up to par yet. So a lot of site or stores are just using random third party stuff. So like every tournament's probably going to be run a little bit differently. Just go in with an open mind. Most stores are just trying to do the best they can with the tools they have, and just have fun with it. You know, it's a fun event. You just get to go. You get to play Star Wars with people all day. Like it's a good time. Um,
Good things.
One last point on store showdowns I wanted to bring up. Again, kind of, I think with the thought in mind of maybe people who haven't played competitively or are just maybe don't want to play competitively, but like they just want to have a decent showing. You guys have any advice for someone who's going to their first ever CCG tournament and like how to prepare, what to expect?
Reps, definitely get reps in that. Like
I feel
I
like I need to
feel,
overlay an image of Will Ferrell from Anchorman doing bicep curls right
yeah, that's.
now.
But I mean, like that's honestly because there's a lot of pacing that the best way to learn it is by doing in this game, and that's something like I came into this game a month late, right? So you guys have been playing for a while and had a little bit of experience, but like I went into that tournament sort of knowing, and you pick up some. I mean, you like I just have a lot of experience running card games and
Yeah,
competitive tournaments and that sort of thing. So I knew a little bit about what I was doing, but knowing when to pressure advantage attacking the base, when it's better to use your troops to take out your opposing troops, how you do the timing on attacks and when you play what card and oh going the next round I know I can curve out into this and into that, and that goes in the deck building as well. It's like do you bring too many twos, like do you need more threes or
yeah,
more
and the only way to
Mhm.
fours?
realize that is if you play enough games with it to be like,
Just
oh,
get, yeah, play into the meta, play into the weird stuff, like see how you react to your bad matchup, see how you do into your good matchups, and like that is how you get better at these
yeah.
things. Like just keep trying, keep doing.
It's also how I helped pick out a sideboard because I actually brought 3 copies of Bamboozle in my sideboard specifically because we played a game right before leaving where I think Nate actually played Chirrut into me, and I realized
Mm.
I have absolutely no answer for Chirrut in this deck. If somebody brings it, it's an auto loss. So I was like, I'm just going to throw in some Bamboozles that I could sideboard in if it comes to that.
That is
Um,
a good way to handle Juret.
yeah, so I have some thoughts, but I'm going to let Nate go first because I've been monopolizing a little bit. What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, I think hit the biggest thing, which is getting reps in with it. With the game at this point, it's very early into the game. You don't even need to be getting reps in with the deck that you probably ultimately bring. You just need to play the game more to understand a lot of the intricacies of the timing of when to press advantage. If your deck is going to be trying to go under a certain deck, or if you're trying to maintain board control so that you just have a heavy hitting presence at the end of the game. So really just reps. And then obviously once you kind of have an idea of what deck you want to run, just keep drilling that,
Yep.
find out interesting new things that you're like, oh, I can do this because of this particular hand. I was able to like get a 1 drop out, and then the next turn manage some other weird stuff because like characters like Han and Boba, who can give you extra resources when you typically wouldn't have them, can drastically change your play patterns.
Yep. Yeah, and like learning what to expect in certain matchups, and so preparing for that. Like five
Yeah, for sure.
resources against Boba Green, you better be prepared for overwhelming barrage. Um, So I have a couple thoughts. One is similar, the similar topic of like preparing if you're trying to just get better at the game, and in addition to just playing reps, I also recommend playing decks that you're not bringing. Play the deck that you expect to see. Get a couple games in playing Sabine. Get a couple games in, like borrow someone's Boba Green deck or something like that. Just because
Hmm.
there's no better way to learn how to play against a deck than to play it yourself, and you get to see the thought process your opponent has. So that's
That
one.
that also really helps in understanding what that deck doesn't want to see happen,
Yeah,
so you can make it happen as much as possible.
exactly, 100%. The other thing I was going to mention was less on the competitive focus and just kind of in the category of like what to expect when you go. So if it's your first tournament, you're not trying to win the whole thing. You're just looking to have a good time, or if you are, and it's your first unlimited tournament in general, uh, I just would mention a couple things. Like, for example, what I like to do at the start of every match is communicate with my opponent how they prefer I track my life total. The rules state you're supposed to count up, and that's fine, and that will likely, it's obviously become the standard. But in a casual-ish event like a showdown, if my opponent likes having like I have a dial that I can count down, where it's easier for them to know how much health I have left. I'm fine doing that. It's just something I like to establish with my opponent beforehand. And then also, the other piece of advice I would give is don't feel bad calling a judge. It's not
Mm.
it's not an insult to anyone. It's not some faux pas thing. Like, there's nothing wrong if you're not sure of a rule. Just call the judge. They'll come over, clarify. It's no big deal. There's so many times where there's just some weird fringe interaction that you don't think about all the time, and just getting it clarified by the judge is something that's expected. And so it's a thing I could see, because I remember when I first started playing card games, I would feel intimidated. Like, calling a judge means I'm trying to call you a cheater, and that's not
Mm.
what that is intended to be for.
Yeah, whether it's a rules question or just a hey, I don't think you can do that, or you just want a impartial person to come over and tell the other person like, hey, I know you can't do this, but let me get this other person
Yeah,
so that there's less awkwardness
exactly.
between the players at the table. Like that is what the judges is there for.
Yep.
They are volunteering their time. They get some cool promo cards for it. Like use them. They are a resource.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nate has a lot of experience with this because he
Yeah.
is the MCP. Are you like the judge du jour? Are you like the go to judge for MCP these days, Nate?
No, that is the wonderful Thoris and the Goldar, and I cannot hold a candle to
They
the
they
amount of
are
effort.
they are rules forum guys. You are the boots on the ground. You're
Yeah,
the
I judge NashCon, which has seen 64 plus players several times, and Adepticon, which has also obviously seen
Yeah.
64 plus players multiple times. So
Yeah.
I've got a fair bit of experience.
Yeah.
I will not say I'm top dog by any means, but yes.
Yeah. And so the reason I bring all this up is because I feel like there's a wide mix of people coming into this game right now. Everything from former Magic players, former Destiny players, and people who have never played a CCG before and just saw Unlimited like Star Wars.
Yep.
Uh, there are the players that are coming from Magic, like Justin alluded to earlier, are used to Magic as very strict rule sets. Everybody writes down your health with a pen and paper. Whereas Destiny was way more casual. You just use tokens. It's very laid back. Store showdowns are kind of like a middle ground there. It's a casual, labeled a casual event, but it's more competitive than your weekly play. So some players may be sticklers for certain parts of the rules. Just go in expecting that. And just like if you go in, I will say every person that I've played against has been super nice about it. Some people are rule sticklers, but that's fine. They're polite about it. Just be polite about it, and everyone's there to have fun at the end of the day. So, yeah, just go with an open mind. Be ready to learn a couple things and just have some fun. You guys want to talk about spoilers?
Always.
always.
I know this whole time we're talking about this showdown, you both of you are like, all right, enough. Uh, so
One thing I do want to point this out before we move on.
Yeah.
Thomas, the winner of the event,
oh yeah,
he is actually a fellow content creator. He has a YouTube channel by
thank
the
you.
name of the Bantha Crew.
Yes,
I believe it's just Bantha, BAN THA crew.
Yes.
But they do videos and they do deck techs and that sort of thing. So feel free to check him out after you check us out.
Yeah,
He's
I'll
good
put a
people. He's
I'll
a
put a
good
link in the
player.
YouTube video
Yeah,
description too. Yeah, good
yeah.
shout. Thanks for that. So yeah, spoilers. There's been a lot of spoilers out since the last time we recorded, and if we went through all of them, we'd be here forever. So what we did is each of us chose two cards of the spoilers that have come out between last show and this one, and we're just going to talk about them real quick, go over what they do and what we think about them and what we're excited about them. Um, for the rest of the spoilers, if you want to chat with them, you can join our Discord. We're talking about them all the time in there. And then I'm toying with the idea of, now that we're getting into YouTube, doing a couple more short form videos where we talk about spoilers or deck building, theory crafting kind of stuff. So keep an eye out for that on the old YouTube channel. But for now, we're just going to go over a couple of our favorites. So why don't we start with you, Justin? Which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, I tell you, I am super excited because you and I both were Han players, right? There is a new green 3-drop
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian piece by the name of Sundari Peacekeeper. Aggro. This is you're looking at a like I said, a 3-drop. So Han can get it out turn 1 using his special ability, and it comes out a 1/5, which is not an ideal stat line, but it has Raid 2 and Restore 2 on it. So you've got a really big booty out there, right?
Yeah.
That can take a hit or two. And while it doesn't clap back very hard, like, it's like if someone attacks into it, they only take one. But if you have that Raid 2 going and Restore 2 at the same time, if they waste the time to kill him for 2 turns and not attack my base, that's as though I got a Restore 4 off of him. Or if they do attack my base and I can attack into them, I'll still have my body alive on the board, take out their threat, hopefully, and restore 2 on my base at the same time.
Sure.
So it's like a lose-lose situation for a lot of aggro players when they're going into a really thick, annoying thing to try and kill. I think it works perfect in that deck as an opening early game play.
Yeah, they're not going to want to attack it.
I mean, they might, because it's only 1 damage back, right? So if you have
Sure.
like a 3/2,
Yeah, but every time they attack it, that's damage that could be going face that you're saving too. So
exactly.
yeah.
But it's like there are choices to be made there, and I love. It's like almost having a sentinel without actually having a sentinel. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like it's a very cool tech piece for that. I mean, you can use it anywhere, but it's green hero. So like
It's
I
also a
said,
Mandalorian and a trooper.
yeah. So it immediately caught my eye as something I want in my
Mhm.
Han deck. I love good 3-drops, and my deck's full of them. So that's the first piece that I wanted to talk about.
Do you think this is a sideboard piece, or is this going to hit the main deck?
I might do because as new cards right now, the decks are very like, oh, here is the one good card in this slot. I will take 3 of it, and here's
Mhm.
another good card. I'll take 3 of it. As more cards become available, I might put 1 in my main deck and 2 in the sideboard, or
Mhm.
depending, like, because in control matchups, that's not a great piece. In mid range, it's okay, but in those like aggro decks, you really want them. So yeah, it would be something I would probably. I don't think I'd do a full 3 of all the time, but
Yeah, I
I
feel
would.
a 1/2
Yeah,
split is pretty reasonable.
I could see it becoming a 3 of in the main deck. I I
it hit.
run.
I mean, it still has raid 2, so it hits
Yeah.
with a 3. That's pretty
Yep.
good. So
It's just a well-rounded card that does a lot for its cost.
Mhm.
And it's a rebel, so it works for things like I main deck 3 copies of Fleet Lieutenant, for example. So now it's hitting for
It's not a
5.
rebel. It's a
It's not a
Mandalorian
rebel. I
trooper.
keep, I did this in the tournament once too. I literally see the hero symbol. It's a rebel logo, and I keep thinking that's what it's referring to. Yeah,
anyone
you're
white
right.
is a rebel.
Yeah. No, you're right. But it still it works for if you're using C3PO, you're usually calling 3 early on. It could replace the Echo base, the
Nah,
Sentinel.
Echo
What's
Base
the
is
one?
there's the
I was
Rebel
talking with
Operative.
Thomas about this today, actually, from Bantha, and we were talking about the is it Shore, the 3 mana that gets Sentinel when you have at least 6 resources.
Homestead Militia.
Homestead
Three
Militia.
what? What did you say? Three what?
3 3 resources. Yes, of course.
To be clear, Cruiser gives me a hard time because I use a lot of magic terms when I describe things. I'll call them spells,
Yeah.
and they're blockers or mana, whatever. So I like
Spells
to
is the only one that really triggers me, to be honest with you. But I think this card is well rounded enough that I could see it just becoming a 3 of in the main deck. I don't know off the top of my head what I'd cut necessarily, but it helps a lot into Sabine. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your next one.
My next one is Rose Tico, which I kind of love that the first sequel card revealed is Rose, because
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know that people have very divided opinions about The Last Jedi and the whole sequel trilogy,
Yeah.
but her card is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
She is a 2/6. So once again, you're not talking like a really amazing stat line just on base value. But she comes out shielded, which is awesome. And on attack, you may defeat a shield token on a friendly unit. If you do, give 2 experience tokens to that unit. So the obvious, easy kind of play is you use ECL, you drop her, you immediately sack the shield token, you put on her and attack with her as a 4/8.
For 4 resources.
Which is an amazing value.
That's bonkers.
But if you combine her with a deck like a Luke deck or a Hera deck where you've got the ghost out and you've got shields everywhere and experience tokens everywhere, you can make some disgustingly big rebel units like uh 8/8 Zeb or something swinging out with like a bunch of experience tokens when you sacrifice the shields that he got from the ghost being played, or you can make the ghost like a sort of pseudo home one in the space arena. Like, there's a lot of stuff you can do.
Blue
Like,
has a lot of ways to generate more shields.
and I mean, there's just it's a cool. I I understand. Upgrade right now, as the game currently stands, are limited to like a few lightsabers. You've got traitorous. You've got a couple of other things that most people don't play a whole lot of. I think that's going to change with this new set coming out,
That
and
was a big upgrade focus, yeah.
the decks that will be able to take advantage of that well might include some shield-based decks. Which back in our Destiny days, those were my jams. I love shield decks. Like, that was fun, being able to manipulate, modify, spend shield tokens for damage or spend shield tokens for whatever. And I think that Rose is the start of that. And I think it's a very cool build, cool design, and worst case scenario, you've got a 4/8 body for 4 resources, which is really solid.
It's not bad.
What does she fit in right now? Like that's the thing I'm trying to. Like, she's such a good card. I don't know what she. I guess a Luke green deck right now. Yeah.
Luke is the obvious choice. I think if you did a blue green Hera, you could build a shield experience focused deck around the Rebels crew in there.
Or
I think it'll be
Chewbacca.
fun.
Leader
Chewie
Chewbacca.
works as well. Yeah, Chewie.
It's a big
anything
health
where
total
you
to get a Sentinel.
Yeah, Chewie doesn't have a lot of inherent shield synergies though, beyond just liking it being shielded.
No, but there's enough in blue green in general that you can get shields from somewhere other than your leader. You know.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Interesting.
But like I was saying, I'm hoping, and I believe this is the case, that there's a lot more shields incoming for heroes and probably experience coming for villains.
And shields in this game don't suffer from the same fate that they did in Destiny. Where in Destiny, a shield blocked 1 damage, not 1 source of damage, 1 actual damage. So they were very weak when you compared it to a ping, like a damage ping. It's much more balanced and unlimited.
somewhere else Rose is going to do really well is going to be Mando, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I think the only legendary we've had revealed so far
Yeah.
was
Currently,
Mandalorian.
yes. Currently.
Yep.
And his on play is heal all damage from a unit that costs 2 or less and give it 2 shield tokens.
Yep. It's
Yep.
pretty good.
Same colors. And then the card I'm going to talk about
Yeah.
is also going to synergize with that, though I don't know if Rose goes in the America deck. It's the America deck because it's all about guns and the red, white, and blue. I'm talking Mandalorians.
Yeah.
We've got the 5-cost armorer who is vigilance and heroic aspects. She's a 3/5 Mandalorian who has a fantastic when played ability. Give a shield token to each to up to 3 Mandalorian units. So she's a
Yeah.
3/5 shielded who gets to give shields to 2 other units.
Yep. So yeah, because she can be one of her own targets.
Yeah.
Right? It's interesting because I feel like as long as you have at least one other unit on the board, she's worth it. It's going to feel real bad playing her on an empty board.
Yeah, if your 5-drop is that and the rest of the board is empty, she definitely feels like a dead play. But I think in any other circumstance, she is a win more card when she comes out, and if you actually manage to shield 3 other units, it's just kind of like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
like, what are you gonna do?
I don't even view it as win more, honestly, because I mean, 5 resources is not a lot, and there are plenty of situations where you have a stalemate board state, and 3 shields will just turn the tides completely.
Yeah,
So
and within the Mandalorian kind of archetype that is being developed, a lot of these guys care about being upgraded.
yep,
So the turn before you play out the armor, you play out Costco Reeves, Mandalorian, red, white. On attack, if this unit is upgraded, shields count as an upgrade. You may deal 2 damage to a ground unit.
yep,
So
pretty good.
yeah, it's gonna be some fantastic synergies there. Really excited to see how the rest of that trope.
And there's lots of counterplay there too, which I like, which is one of the staples of the game, right? And the back and
Yeah,
forth format is getting that combo out is super powerful, but your opponent has an action to remove that shield in between armor attacking and somebody else attacking. But there's a lot of built-in synergies. I think what I like about them most is a lot of built-in synergies, but they're also generic enough that you can get creative with it
hmm
and find things that aren't as obvious, maybe. Um, and they're also good and limited. So like this is going to be a very good draft card. Like this is something you should look for when you're drafting.
yeah. I'm really excited about this draft format with all of the focus on bounty and upgrades. It's
Yeah,
like the
it's
first
really
set
fun.
was already really good draft experience.
Is it
Excited to
July
see
yet?
where it goes. No.
All right. Well, you wanna talk about your next one here?
Yeah, we're talking about upgrades and stuff anyway. The other card I want to talk about because I love me some green ramp, and it just seems that green, no matter what game you're playing, is the color of ramp. 2 and command aspect for price on your head. It is a upgrade. It is a bounty condition. Attach unit gains bounty. Put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. Uh, it's just another green ramp card. It's a
Yep.
it's a different
Hooray!
kind of
Green was really hurting
resupply.
for ramp options, so
Yeah,
I'm really
right.
glad this card exists.
I'm intrigued because like what decks are gonna play this over resupply? Do you try to play both? Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be really cool. I think the faster red decks like red green Leia or the new boss are going to have some really cool synergies in wanting to play price on your head as their version of ramp.
Sure. I'm
Yeah,
wondering
the
too if
the Bosk one is especially disgusting because on his actual like hero side, because he's leader, on the actual hero unit, gets to trigger the bounty twice when he collects. Like
Hmm
being able to put 2 resources out when you kill a person with the price on your head. And yeah, he can really take advantage of this because he comes out at 5. So
Yep.
that's a very clutch turn to get up to 7 resources all of a sudden. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
yeah,
gonna jump from 5 to 8 the next turn.
Yeah.
yeah, like that's a lot. So cool.
Yeah.
Like,
So that's right. Yeah. So just because it took me a second for that to click too, price on your head. Um, it's not that it comes into play as a resource. The top card of your deck comes into
Hmm.
play. So like that allows you to redeem it twice. Yeah. That's pretty nuts. I love that.
also another card that got spoiled today was Dengar, which is
Yep.
a 1 drop, just a 2/2. And anytime you play an upgrade on a unit, you may deal 1 damage to that unit. So you can literally put price on your head on a First Order Stormtrooper or a Greedo and instantly kill it, get
Yep.
the bounty, and like immediately turn it into a resource.
Do you think
It's
we'll
like
see
used
any
for
bounties that have like so there's attack and health modifiers that will have any negatives on the health modifier? Like so you could literally play a bounty and have it instantly kill something?
I mean, I'm sure that if it's not in this set, it's probably in the works at some point.
Yeah, I mean there's upgrades that do that, just not bounties, right? So
Yeah, not yet. We've only seen, I think, like what, a bounty in 3 of the 4 colors.
yeah. Yep.
So who knows what other spaces there could be to explore?
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'd be interested to see what a bounty that increases power and what is the health? Is it just health, stamina,
Health, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
health? Increases those things, but gives a bigger reward
Sure.
than
Yeah,
you
yeah.
would typically see.
Makes them harder to kill, yeah. Yeah, but bounty is interesting. It's just an interesting mechanic. This plus smuggle, there's going to be a lot of interesting new interplay between all these things. And it's interesting too because bounties were difficult in Destiny to be worth it because it was almost inherent card disadvantage. The only ones that became really popular are the ones that gave you tons of resources or card draw or something. But in
Hmm.
this, there's a lot more opportunity to gain from. Like obviously this one's huge, putting a resource into play. But the other interesting thing in this brilliant segue I just came up with is after you destroy the or you kill the or capture what has the bounty on it, it gets discarded, and the effect takes place. And they also released a card that I wanted to talk about that plays with your discard pile. Fennec is another one I spoiled. I think a couple days ago now. It's just a 7 resource. It's just yellow, and it's a 4/6 with ambush that has on attack. Deal 1 damage to the defender if it's a unit for each different cost among cards in your discard pile. This one intrigues me because it's not quite a build around card, but it's something you take into account not only when you're building your deck, but as you're playing out your turns. Like you may choose to uh, play certain things or resource certain things so you can get different cards in your discard pile. And it incentivizes you to have things that die early or bounties that you get rid of early so that you have stuff in your discard pile by the time she comes out. And it's just the first interaction we've seen with the discard pile that it actually matters what's in there other than just pulling cards from it.
Hmm.
And not to, keep playing a broken record here, but Han can really tailor his discard pile with what's in there, like
True.
way faster than other decks. So by the time you hit 7 resources, which that could be as early as turn 3 if you get good
Yeah.
ramp,
You can have 4 or 5 cards in your discard pile that all have different
you
costs.
have exactly 4 or 5 cards in your discard pile that all of a sudden you drop Fennec with ambush, who's doing 9 damage to something or 8 damage to something when they ambush. Like that's a pretty strong 7 drop.
The other interesting thing is she has the Underworld subtitle, which we have not seen anything directly referenced yet, to my knowledge. Uh,
Hmm.
but it seems to be a theme of the set. There's already a bunch of them in set 1. And
Actually,
so,
it has been referenced once.
oh yeah? Where?
It's on McClunky,
Ah,
where you can
yes.
return a friendly non-leader underworld unit 2 are on his hand, and
Okay.
if you do, deal 3 damage to a unit.
Okay. Fair enough.
So
Yeah. So
there is an underworld trigger in the set.
I'm just curious if I'm just curious what other synergies are going to come out with that kind of tribal.
Well, I will say there are a lot of underworld cards.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
So
Both
like
villainy and heroic. You
yeah,
got Han and Falcon and Chewie versus Jabba and Bib, and
Yep.
but
The
even like
Falcon is
the
Underworld, isn't it?
Mhm.
even like the spoiled cards for the set that they've done so far, like there are
Hmm.
a lot
Yep.
of them. Um,
How do you compare Fennec to someone like Unit Han, who has 2 extra attack? His ability deals his damage first. So, like, typically, I feel like the turn you play him, he'll be more powerful, but his upside isn't as high. But of course, he's also restricted to heroic. So, do you think she slots into that Han deck or
it
fit
makes
in?
it so I don't feel like I need 3x of Han. I know that because
Okay, yeah,
the most frustrating thing about playing into Boba Green is when the Boba leader unit flips out, he has 7 health. So
yeah,
your 6/6 Han that shoots first or whatever can't take him out.
yeah.
Fennec, assuming there are 3 cards in your discard pile of different costs, can. And I find that very appealing in that matchup that I'm bad at,
Yep, makes
that
sense.
I have a way to just drop a 7 drop and immediately take out my opponent's leader.
Yeah. I mean, and this set is small enough that I often feel I'm going to want to run 3x of virtually every card in my deck. As the card pool
Mhm.
grows, sometimes like these 2 cards fulfill similar purposes but can handle different situations. So like because I had
And
a game over at the
e-
tournament over the weekend where
even
I had a Han in my hand and my draws for the turn were the other 2 Hans. So I had a hand of just 3 Hans and it's like, well, I guess I'm not doing anything this turn.
but like even if you put your 3 Fennecs in your sideboard, right?
Sure.
And it's like, oh, this matchup, I don't want Han as much as I want Fennec, so you swap them out. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. It definitely. I do think that this new set is going to change deck building because right now you can build like a lot of decks that I see will be like the max number of 3 drops of everything, and then you have a couple that you have to have 2s of to make 50.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's like if it's good enough to be in the deck, why wouldn't I want 3 of it? It's
Right.
like, well, that might be changing now because there's stuff that situationally might be a little better, and you can't build your deck purely tech for one matchup and just go, oh, if I'm in that matchup, I'm going to lose it round 1 and then hopefully slot in my stuff round 2 or
I think
like
there's a couple cards that in a typical deck that fills that. I am usually of the belief that a well optimized deck, most cards are maxed out on the number of copies you can run, and you just build the deck that the cards you pick to play around those matchups, as opposed to splitting up a slot. I just have different slots that handle different situations, but that's just me.
but what I'm saying is that some of these cards are going to be good enough that you might not want 3x of your say, rebel whatever, and you decide, oh, okay, I can go down to 2 of that and bring in 1 of this tech card that might be useful. And then if I'm going against this matchup, I can go to my sideboard, take out the other 2 of
Sure.
my whatever, and put in
Mhm.
the 3 of. So I do think that the deck building might change a little bit
Yeah.
once this new stuff comes out, where it's a little more situationally useful. Like because that Fennec tech, I might put her 2 in my main deck and 1 Han because I like what she does to Boba, which is my worst matchup.
Yep. For sure.
I could see it for the higher end cards, like probably 6 and up, where you start to spreading the cost out, having the others in the sideboard. But I feel like your core units that cost 2, 3, and 4, you probably still want
Yeah.
playsets of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
agree. All right, let's talk about the last one here before we move on. Last card I of the 2 that I chose was Wrecker because, well, mostly just because Wrecker's awesome. He has the one of the coolest subtitles in the game. It's just boom, which is I thought was awesome. So he's a 6 cost red hero card. He's a 7/6 with Overwhelm, so he's a big hitter. And when played, defeat a friendly resource. You may defeat a friendly resource, excuse me. If you do, deal 5 damage to a ground unit. And so 6 resources is just in that ECL frame. So, there are situations where you can overwhelm or ambush this guy out, uh, defeat a resource, deal 5 to something, and then overwhelm for the rest, which could lead to some really gross big swing turns. Um, and we're not going to go over all of them, but I just like all the synergies we're seeing with the Bad Batch. So plus the art's cool. And I feel like Red Hero right now. There's some Red Han out there, but the only other thing you really see is Sabine. So it'll be nice to hopefully see some variation in Red Hero.
No Cassian love. No.
Well, I mean, we don't really see Cassian right now. I feel like maybe he just hasn't been figured out yet, but he's definitely one of the least popular heroes in the set.
Yeah, he's a weird thing where he's not able to keep the same level of pressure that like Sabine and Leia are, but like he can definitely go the distance better against the control decks and stuff, and just eventually outpace them. But that's a very niche.
And the thing is, aggro decks typically do well into control anyway, so that's like it's solving a problem that doesn't really exist. It's maybe mid range it has more chance against that way, but yeah, it's a tough sell.
Yeah. No, I think the absolute upside of Wrecker is like, oh, they've got units out, your board is empty, but man, you only need to deal like 5 more damage. Here comes Wrecker, ECL, or what's the new green ambush enabler?
The timely intervention.
Yeah. And it's just like, cool, I don't care about this resource anymore. I'm going to deal 5 to something, ambush, and it only has like 2 health left. That's 5 to base.
You don't need resources if you're winning the game.
Yeah. There are so few things that can surprise win the game on an empty board. It's basically for a cause, and the few things out there that have overwhelm, and Wrecker's going to be the best at the sneak attack overwhelm.
Well, we always joke that like a lot of these aggro decks, if they don't win by turn 5 or turn 6, they're in a pretty bad spot. Wrecker comes out turn 5, and yeah, you might blow up a resource, but if you can overwhelm 7 and like kill an imposing ground unit at the same time,
you also don't have to blow up the resource, which is a nice option to have.
Yeah.
But I mean,
but
it's extra reach for those situations where like, oh no, I'm about to win, but they just threw down this beefy Sentinel unit. Well, I have an answer for that now. So I love spoiler season is always so fun because we talk about all these cards. It's going to be vastly different in a month from now when we have 50 more cards spoiled and all of the combinations start poking out, and then the full set comes out, and none of the stuff we're talking about is as relevant anymore because there's so many more options. But it's so fun to just think about the design space that went in when they were making these cards and where they may fit into the meta when everything comes out. So it's fun. It's the best time of any CG.
It is pretty crazy about how, like, just looking at the mechanics on these cards with the smuggle, the bounty, the capture mechanics, like that's going to really change just the like landscape of the game. Not even the meta. I'm just talking about like the stuff you have to keep track of and keep in mind from turn to turn. Like there's a lot of stuff coming in this new set.
Oh yeah,
it's very cool. Very cool.
Very ready. All right, so that's spoilers. Like I said, if you want to see more spoiler talk, join our Discord or stay tuned to the YouTube channel. We'll be I'll be posting some more videos on spoilers as they come out, and hopefully some gameplay footage on there as well soon. Nate's cooking up a nice little play space for us to start recording some footage, so I'm excited about that. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention before we wrap up here is the past 2 episodes now I've been talking about how we wanted to do a Twin Sons episode. Unfortunately, especially with the showdown and people been traveling. It's been hard to get a group together for weeklies. But we have planned for Monday. We're finally going to play our first Twin Suns game, and I'm really excited about it. So in 30 seconds or less, tell us what you're going to play first, and then I figure next time we come back, we could talk a little bit of our experience with the format, what we liked, and what we played with, and all that kind of stuff. Nate, you go first. What are you playing?
Cool. So I've actually already played, unlike the rest of you guys who are out
Excuse me.
doing a store showdown and stuff. I built a green Cassian Han deck that performed really well. And basically, the idea was Han's biggest problem using his ability is you run out of hand space really quickly, and Cassian kind of offsets that. But honestly, like, it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was going to be synergistic wise. Mostly because the game is so much quicker than I expected. I'm used to again, we just keep going back to the Magic comparisons, but Magic is a very similar format with Commander, where it's singleton.
Commander
You
games
have a
can
dedicated.
drag.
Yeah, but Commander games can go and go and go, and this was surprisingly fast. So
Which I like.
I'm excited to see what other kind of deck combos I can come up with and how they interact.
I think I'm gonna bring at least my first thought. I haven't built anything yet. The first thing that I thought of was Krennic and Grand Inquisitor, just because that sounds disgusting. And I played the Grand Inquisitor aggro deck that the designer article on the official site posted a while back. I made a couple tweaks to it, but it's actually really fun. And so adding Krennic's ability to that sounds awesome. So I think I'm gonna mess around with that. We'll see how that goes. What about you, Justin? What are you gonna play?
Well, Nate stole mine. I've been talking about doing a Han Cassian, but
can't steal it if I did it first.
Yeah, thinking around about it, you'll probably be happy to hear this. I like the idea of playing a Thrawn Iden deck. Do very control, because Thrawn, when the action phase starts, you look at the top card of each player's deck.
Oh yeah. I can't remember 2 cards. Now I have to remember 4.
You have to remember 4 cards, but on attack, you reveal the top card of any player's deck and exhaust a unit that costs the same as or less than the revealed
Justin's
card.
going to be in the corner with a freaking notepad writing down every card.
Like pages of notes. It's like, Brian had a U-wing on top, so I can... So I think that'll be fun. I won't be the most threatening. I'll be the most annoying, maybe. But, it's like, there's a lot of politicking involved. There's a lot of politicking involved where I say, hey, I won't tap your guy. I'm going to tap down Nate's guy. Nate's got his card draw engine going over here. We need to put a stop to that. So
I don't know. That seems very not on theme for Thrawn being like the politicky guy, right?
He's not very good at politics. That's fair.
He's not very good with the
allies.
He likes to manipulate people, though.
Yeah.
So
he manipulates
that
people
part
to his end. Yeah.
Listen, manipulating everybody's top deck is an art, and so Thrawn is definitely into it. That sounds hilarious and trolly and everything. That's why I'm excited about the format. Is some of my most fun Magic moments were 4-player Commander, where it's just a lot of politicking and dancing around each other until one person just takes the first blow, and then it's all crazy.
And then it's just everybody got their guns out and they're like, all right, who's gonna die next?
Yes. So we'll have to figure out a way to record some Twin Suns content, because I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it, and I think it's going to be a really, really fun format. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that next time. Anything else you guys want to bring up real quick before we wrap things up here?
Nothing over here.
Yeah.
Got a showdown coming up this weekend. I don't know if you guys are going to it, but I've got one coming up.
Depends on a number of things. I'm gonna try to though.
Can't decide if I'm going to run Han again or if I'm going to run Leia, but it's going to be one of those two, I think.
Either way, I'll be rooting for you, Lumpy.
Thanks.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you are joining us on the podcast or on the YouTube. Be sure to check us out on either one. If you're listening to one, check out the other. We do a lot to help us kind of just reach more people who are looking for Star Wars Unlimited content. But until then, I hope everybody has fun at all your various showdowns and events coming up. And we'll talk to you next time.